Hugh, what's the next question?
Our next question, Ed, is in your experience with startups like Fundable, what traits in a seed stage founder most attract venture capitalists?
Oh, wow. That's a great one. Okay. So it's not what people think it is. Like what people think is, oh, the idea is so strong and the market is so big. Yes. I mean, obviously those help. But if you talk to investors behind the scenes, what they'll tell you over and over and over is we bet on the founder. Now, when you say that, that freaks people out. It's like, well, yeah, but I don't have any experience. Like they're betting on me. They must mean like I'm looking for someone with tons of experience. No, you know what they're looking for? Humility. Humility. As crazy as that sounds, dude, what you'll hear over and over and over is I just want someone that's coachable. And when they say that, it's because they have to work with this person nonstop. And if you have an arrogant, pig-headed founder, have you ever done this long enough? Dealing with those idiots is the worst thing that you can do. So, given that I was one of those idiots and I saw what that friction was like, I get it now, right? Like I get it. And I remember the investors at the time, like, I have 3 different companies that were venture funded. Investors would come to me and they're like, Will, there's some things that we like about you, right? Like you're aggressive, you've got like, you get stuff done, et cetera, but like, you kind of don't listen. And I was like, look, let me be clear. I don't listen. Right. Like I'm just not good at it. Right. And I'm not, that's, I don't care about other people. I'm really empathetic, but I feel really strongly about like pushing forward. I don't form huge committees. I don't like, worry about consensus. I'm like, let's just get it done. And that's not the same as saying, well, let me wait to the board meeting and have them tell me how to run my company. I just don't feel that way. And by virtue of that, you should not invest in me. Right? That's a terrible idea. Go find somebody that maybe has an idea like mine that will actually listen to what you have to say. And let me tell you, it's also the reason I don't invest. Because I could never stand investing in me. If I had to deal with me all day, and I'm like, dude, I just gave you all this money, and you're not listening to the most basic stuff, my head would explode, right? So it works both ways. Like, at least I've got some self-awareness around it. But from a first-time founder, you're trying to show that you have that skill. One of the things founders don't do over and over and over is ask questions. Mm-hmm. See, here's what happens. And this is a factor of youth as well. When we're young, we're insecure. And when we're insecure, we don't feel good about asking questions because we feel it makes us vulnerable. It makes us look silly, right? Turns out we find out later that the smart people, the experienced people, the people that get ahead ask lots of questions. And that's their superpower. It also puts you in command of the room. Right. And so one of the things I learned when I was early in my career, because I didn't know anything, I was so unprepared for life, is when clients would ask me a question that I clearly didn't know the answer to, I would always respond with a question. They'd be like, Will, what will our market positioning be if we go into this market? And I had no idea if they were talking about it. And so I'd always come back with a question, which, by the way, this is like the ninja move every time. I would say something like, what have you tried in the past and what's worked? Let's start there. Mm-hmm. What I'm really saying is explain to me what the hell you're talking about. And hopefully by the time you're done answering my question, I'll have any idea what you just said. But I was just saying it because I was anxious and insecure and I didn't know what I was talking about. But it turned out the client was like, we love Will because he asks questions. He digs in, right? And it turns out when you're talking to investors, if you don't ask them questions, you're letting them control the narrative, right? So if they say, hey, I don't think that the market size is big enough. First question. What would the market size have to be big enough? Like, tell me exactly what that number is. So make sure I'm not guessing at what that answer is. So one of the things I did well inadvertently is I asked lots of questions, still do. And it turned out that for investors, they loved knowing that I had that curiosity, right? They loved knowing that I was asking those questions. And frankly, they like to be asked questions. And one of the things I would have never thought, but a huge, huge differentiation.
Let's break that down. Just for the founders who are going to be watching this, who are listening to this live, and who will be watching a recording, you're going to look at sort of a spectrum. And so on one side, if you're early and you're new, we want founders who ask the questions like Will said, because startups are fundamentally hard. And all the time, investors in early stage, and a lot of founders don't realize this, we just expect the founder to be wrong. Like 80% of the assumptions to be wrong, but we expect them to figure it out. Yep. And that's the reason you invest in founders. That's the first thing. And you do not have to be a professional capital raiser. I think something like that happened. Well, I heard stories from other general partners and other investors that they say, Ed, in 2021, it was like people were better at raising capital than they were in building product and solving problems. And we're seeing the fall of that right now, right? That's the nuclear winter. And so as long as you, the founder, you have domain expertise, you are obsessed with the problem, you show resilience, you're smart enough, you're an exceptional person that, guess what? I can help you with legal. I can help you with all the other stuff that you don't need to worry about right now. I want to know you're solving the problem and you care about it and you're in it for the next 10 years. If you can do that, I don't care if you've done 10 ventures because you probably have new ideas that you're going to bring to the table. That's how I see it.
I agree. Again, a big part of that is the relationship. And I think that more than anything, like people, love ideas, et cetera, but they fall in love with the founders. Right. And so that personal connection that you make with them and kind of how they feel about you makes a big difference. Right. And very few founders, much to what people don't understand, are all that charismatic. Right. So it's not like you're like big kind of glossy salesperson and that's what gets you in there. More of what they're looking for is authenticity.
True.
Right. You are a big, giant nerd. And that's perfectly okay because you're authentic, right? You're authentic about it. All you care about is payments processing, right? You're so nerdy about payments processing. Awesome. I love the authenticity. I love the honesty. I love the vulnerability that comes with it. It's not what people think, which it's like, oh, again, this glossy salesperson that's coming in and kind of wooing everybody. That's not the way it works. In fact, when you see that person, it's often a red flag because you're immediately thinking, I'm about to be sold. And remember, investors do nothing but sit through pitch meetings all day. They see this a mile away.
Pro tip, we'll let it out. Raise your own money. Investors want to talk to the CEO. Finding someone to do your investor relations and take all your meetings, that's not going to work. So